me, in its simplest form, it's about having a network that is capable of meeting future customer requirements. Our opportunity going forward is to use the network in a smarter way, as well as using customers' flexibility where they would like to operate their assets in a different way.
Against a backdrop of lots of customers asking to connect electric vehicles and solar, we're starting to reach saturation point on our network. And there's kind of two paths we could take at this point. We could do what we normally do as a DNO and lay new cables, dig up the road and install new big grey boxes in substations. These are all quite expensive things, but they do work. Or alternatively, we could go down the DSO model and get the customers involved and make them part of the solution rather than them being the problem, really.
Smartness for me is being able to understand how the network is performing and then making the right and cost-effective decision in terms of what the solution is. The solution going forward for us will be a mixture of effective network solutions, or it will be calling off a customer to contribute towards solving the network problem that we have.
In my particular area of business, which is in system design, a practical example might be we have a big neighbourhood with lots of electric vehicles, and we might have a fault on the system where we've got a mismatch of generation and demand, so we've got a shortfall of power, and rather than us switching customers off, maybe what we could do would be to ask those electric vehicles to give back to the grid temporarily to help support the network, and that would avoid people having power cuts. To me, in the area of the business that I work in, it will change our design philosophy. Rather than designers looking at installing objects and expensive grey boxes on the system, instead we'll be having conversations with customers and getting them involved in the design process.
We want to monitor what is going on the network. We want to transmit that information back to our central offices, and then we want to be able to use the information to control and plan the network in a more effective way. Then I think for us as engineers, it provides quite an interesting and challenging set of problems for us to solve, and therefore it's really attractive from a skills point of view.
For Northumbrian Water, we've committed to be carbon neutral by 2027. So working with the DNO as they move to become DSO should allow us to deploy more renewable energy assets at our sites and help us meet our goal while helping the country decarbonise.
Lots of our neighbours and friends have now got solar panels on their roofs. People are now buying electric vehicles and charging them at home. There's a lot more distributed generation, by which I mean small wind farms and solar schemes connected to distribution networks. And it's changing how the distribution systems are managed, and they have to become more active to make sure that we get the value out of those additional assets, and that we don't have to build loads more cables to deal with how we generate and use electricity now and into the future.
The real opportunity is to avoid all the disruption that our upgrade works cause, and that has a benefit to all the customers in the area, people stuck in traffic jams, for example, but it also reduces the customers' bills through not doing the works in the first place.
Our opportunity going forward is to use the customer flexibility and some of the new forms of technology to minimise the impact, and we do that by having more cost-effective investment solutions than, as I said, simply putting in bigger cables. And therefore, overall, even customers who don't choose to play in the electricity market are able to get the benefits of decarbonisation and lower bills.
We have a number of wind farms connected to Northern Powergrid's network, and we generate into it at the moment. There could be opportunities for those wind farms to offer services to help balance the distribution network, which is something that hasn't been done before. Also, as a development business, there may be opportunities for us to develop projects that could really help Northern Powergrid offset reinforcement costs. So again, going back to whether they build a new cable or a new overhead line or a new transformer.
So using the battery storage example, it may be that at one of our sites, we deploy battery storage because it can help us keep our costs down by effectively charging when energy is cheap and discharging to the site when energy becomes more expensive. We can also use it in the instance of a power cut in order to maintain the service that we provide to customers. But it may also be, if we get the DSO element right, that we can extend that resilience out to the communities local to our site and make sure that during a power cut they also see some of the benefit of that power being there for them to use.
It might be that a wind farm connected to the Northern Powergrid network would be asked to reduce its output and probably paid some sort of level of fee to reduce its output at a very small amount of times in the year to stop an overload on a particular area, and that might be a cheaper long-term solution for the network and for all the customers connected. So that's kind of from a wind farm perspective. It might be that it's worth installing a battery alongside a wind farm to store some energy that could again provide network services of either taking in power, so looking like a demand, or generating. The government has started a whole programme of changing meters to smart meters. Now, this programme, I believe, is running slightly behind at the moment, but over time we're all going to have in our houses, as well as in shops, factories, etc., meters that measure what we use or generate every half hour. And that's going to allow people selling us or buying our electricity to pay us or charge us on that half-hourly basis. So you can get incentivized to when the right times are for the network as a whole to generate or to use power. I expect people to be having much more time of use tariffs, so that will drive people to understand the benefits of running their household appliances or charging their car at particular times of day, because the differences in price of electricity will change dramatically over the day.
So I think in terms of readiness, it is still very much an emerging sector. I think the infrastructure is there, but it's actually the commercial models that allow it to happen. In a regulated environment, these don't necessarily come forward that quickly, but I think there's a real willingness to do that, and we are certainly talking to energy storage providers and the DNOs about these opportunities now.